Atala did mandong chila the lung. Jiramun of Tongna the lung. Katila lade like Kloinen to one dagates. That's one of the video that went viral. You know, you were speaking in one of the Nuer events and you said, "It is not my responsibility to teach your children to learn your language, but it is yours. But I have resources that can help you get there with your children." So how can this parent take responsibility to ensure that their children can read and write Thok Nath, especially your resources that are there?
Well, I am lucky, and there are a lot of lucky people in the world. I have managed to gather a lot of old resources. So I started a website. It's www, and in the name of my book, Nuer, Nuer Dilemmas, DIL, 1L, E, 2 M's, MMAS.com. Now on that website, I'm slowly beginning to put up resources that the parents, the children, anyone can use. And these resources, to begin with, I've negotiated with some other organizations to put them up for free. Anyone can read. So there's 42 right now on my website. If you look at Nuer and Dinka Children's books and you look at the tab saying Nuer Children's books, you'll find 42 colorful Nuer children's books in the Nuer language. I didn't write any of these books now. I didn't write them. It was Africa's Storybook and many people whose authors you will see. But they are there for you to download and read to your children. But at the end of that, if you scroll to the very bottom, you will find Bok Kɛl, Reo, Diok, Dhie. And these are the books that your parents learn to speak Nuer if they manage to read and write. And these books are also there for free. So in addition, I have so many tapes that I made of Nuer language back in the day. I have tapes of wonderful Nuer storytellers telling stories about Wan and Gok and Nyarial, all these different stories. And I'm going to slowly put them up and turn them into books so people can then both hear and then see written. So children could just go and listen to the stories, and I'll put the text online, and then you can read along. And for you people who know English already, you'll see, you can pretty much read a lot of that. You'll recognize the vowels. So there's that. Another big thing is right now I'm excited because I do think people are getting inspired to do more things. You know, Chuol, you started a class not long ago. I was talking to a reverend in Juba right now who has a church class. He's just started after talking with me and others. And so there are people all over the world trying to do good things, but they're kind of isolated. So we need to connect each other. Yeah. I can do what I can, but you guys need to connect each other too. But I also have several other ideas. In addition to these books, I have published. I started a little company. It's called Sudan Cultural Productions. And this one is a publishing company. So I'm actually printing paperback books, trying to make them as cheap as possible. But I believe they have to be in paper because most of the people in South Sudan, they don't have internet and they don't have things. And so if we want to create resources for those too, we need to have them in paper. So I republished a very powerful dictionary in paperback, and I republished a Nuer Grammar. That was the first one written. These are a little dated on one level, but they're so deep. And so these books you can actually buy if you're in the United States from me. They're not very expensive. And I hope to produce more books. And in fact, I'm working with a team of people all over the world right now to try to create a really vibrant English Nuer dictionary, which will help a lot. But that's a big project. We need a lot of help. So we're well into it. And it's not just me. We have people in Juba, Nuer, talented people in Gambela. I could go through all their names. Anyone can help. I'm just kind of trying to coordinate a little bit. Who am I? I'm an outsider. But I'm somebody who truly loves your language, loves your culture and history, and I don't want to see it lost. Not everybody can afford these books. Not everybody has a printer or computer. But pretty much most people, their churches are very powerful all over, diaspora and everything else. And so the churches, some of them have little classes now to teach Nuer writing, but so many of them don't. And these churches could start them up. And more than that, for maybe $100, $200, those churches could begin to buy a set of books. Nuer dilemmas, the Nuer, some of these dictionaries, the grammar, some of the Bok Kɛl, Diok. They could begin to buy a little library, and I could help them with that. And have a library that the church keeps, that people can borrow, that people who are interested can learn. In the same way, many of you in the diaspora might have a public library nearby. It would be wonderful, instead of everybody trying to buy these books, maybe we can convince the local libraries, if you use them, to encourage them to buy them for the community. And then everybody could have them. Unfortunately, paper costs money. You can't just give them for free, but we need paper too. So those are some of my thoughts. Why not try it?
Yes. Thank you so much for everything that you have said. We started Thok Nath online class, as you have said before, but the inspiration came from your website, came from your work. We were using most of your resources, and we were just taking idea that how you encourage people all around the world that they should develop their own languages, they should develop Thok Nath. So that's exactly what we did, and we really appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts.
Oh,
thank you for what you did to us. What can you tell us about the class? How did you find it?
Oh, it was amazing. I didn't start at the beginning. I didn't find out about it until a little bit late. Because I never learned to write properly. Mm-hmm. I write so I can read it, and other people can, when I pronounce it, other people can hear me. Mm-hmm. So I'm learning more complexities in how to write the vowels. And I'm also learning, it's more in Eastern dialect. So it's interesting for me, who also knows quite a bit of Western, to see some of the differences. Mm-hmm. But for me, all language is communication. And this is a way of writing it down, or even I am now involved in translating some of my articles in Nuer. So maybe, with a lot of help, we can write a history book, or at least cover part of the area in the Nuer language. I mean, the Bible is wonderful. We need to have that in the Nuer language. And we have these Bok Kɛl, Diok, and a few stories. But when are we going to have a history book? Now, some people, I must say, are ahead. There's a guy named Chuol Kwek, mm-hmm. Who's written a wonderful book. I think it's the first kind of scholarly book or in the Nuer language. It's about Nuer mental health. And I read the book and I thought it was brilliant. And it's talking about different kinds of mental illnesses, particularly the people face who have been traumatized, and how to handle that in the Nuer language. I believe he's now translating that Nuer book into English. But I've spoken to him, and he's wonderful. So we need more people to create a literature in the language. It's challenging, because if you translate Nuer into some of these other scientific ideas, there may be a lot of gaps. We don't necessarily have a word for that in Nuer. So we can say, well, that's too bad. No. In the Nuer, there can be created compound words. Just like in English, so many things like sidewalk. What's it made? It's a walk that's on the side. But then it became one word, and we all know it means the strip of cement or whatever it is on the side of the road. So many words are actually compound words, and that's how languages can grow. And right now, I'm a little sad because Google, we know it's great that Google is starting to have its own translation for Nuer, but if you actually look a little carefully into it, it has a lot of gaps. But when it has a gap, all it does is take a word and translate the exact word in English into Nuer letters. So internet, they spell it differently, but still it's the English word internet. But we all know there's a fine word that people use in Nuer, rejom, bandrom, rejom, right? So a better word for Nuer is rejom, for internet. So we need to work on that. But all I'm saying is this could be a creative period, energy, the intellectual people, but also the people that are creating Gen Z languages on the ground. Why not? Languages are not closed, but there is a tension because worldwide, all languages, they tend to develop many different dialects, different lingos. If in English you have lawyer talk, you have school talk, academic talk, you have all of these, but there also are forces that say, well, we have to keep these dialects or these subcategories of language kind of together. And all over the world, let's say in English, they've had committees for decades who decide what's going to be the standard. So maybe we need to develop a creative committee among Nuer speakers who can get together and be inclusive. Someone from Western, Mayom, someone from Bantu, someone from Bangak, someone from Rolauka, Roljiken, and also Gambela, and bring them together and create a way of trying to standardize it, but doing it in a way that doesn't say, oh, the old ways were wrong. No, they're not wrong. They're just historical. But we can do this in a way to make sure that everybody from all these dialects, and as we go, will continue to communicate for the generations of the future. That's my thought.
Thank you so much. Chiloida te kakarwain tin chilat karwain to go along kabigane tuman bekan kalok ala nuaragur kano bugotodian ngai ka website menchagore www.nuerdilemmas.com by netuman along begotin ko bitin chilat right bang black or with an 8-1 theoretical resource to go to the useful along so back a username many to go ken ko batong na by kamnel so jiram kel me betong nat bom nyal ka khile
so chilo de telon loida thokduun ciëŋ gan ingitul gore gan la gore ni ciëŋ
so loida telon and tadwa di.
Okay.